moon in Aquarius, the dawning of the new age, and the beginning of the Chinese New Year of the metal ox. We trust that what is coming through us here now will be right for the people who are listening and for one another as we support each other as part of OneQi, that hub that is growing and growing for the betterment of all and to bring through more Qigong to the world. Deeply rooted on the same planet, but from the stars. Let's go live. Are you ready for this?
Yay.
Well, well, well. I say, just letting it all catch up with us and then we can come in and be with you. So, hello. Hello, good afternoon. If you're watching live, I'm Clara Apollo here on OneQi, live with my beautiful colleagues and companions, Nicola, Tim, and Alex. We are here as part of the OneQi collective. There are, I don't even know how many of us are now in the OneQi hub, but it's growing. And if you want to find out more about the place to be, if you're a Qigong instructor or you're a Qigong player who wants to learn, we have this marvelous hub called OneQi, which you can find out more about all the different instructors. Well, a lot of them that are part of us already. So that's why we're here. We love having these discussions with one another. And we thought, why don't we do something special for you on Chinese New Year? So here we are saying Gung Hei Fat Choi, probably pronounced it wrong, but anyway. And I know that Alex has said to me already that no, I'm going to hand it over to Alex and say, what did I just say? And then you can tell me what you can say around that.
Gong Hei Fat Choi is the Cantonese.
Cantonese, okay.
Mandarin is Gong Xi Fa Zai.
You said that very quickly.
It's Gong Xi Fa Zai. Okay. Doesn't help much more saying it slowly, does it?
No, I think you'd have to kind of spell it out. But anyway, lovely to have you here. So each of us are going to share something about the Chinese New Year with you. And if you're watching on the live on the OneQi channel, for which we're very grateful to have been able to do, because there's a little technical hitches behind the scenes, but here we are now, all is well. And so I'm going to tell you a story about why there are the 12 animals attributed to the Chinese lunar zodiac, the classic story, and give a little bit of reflection on the metal element. I've also got something from Ken Cohen that he's spoken about the importance of this metal ox year. And then Alex is going to continue with some of his wondrous information about the seasons, and I'm sure he's going to throw in some herbal information too. And then Nicola's going to share, I'm not quite sure what Nicola said, she was going to share something about the metal element and the gold and the loveliness there. Yes, 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 yes. And then Tim is also going to share some of his tales of the Chinese New Year time, and both of us with our special outfits on. And I'm going to introduce you to this is my Chinese animals. You can't quite see the whole lot there. It goes right from the top. We've got the rat, and then we're coming down through the ox and I think is that a dragon? No, there's a dragon there. I'm going to need to read the story to find out who was third in this tale. So let's do that. So there are many variations on the story of how the Chinese zodiac came into existence, invariably because the exact historical origins have been lost in time. So ancient references to the zodiac animals date to carvings found on oracle bones from the Shang period of 1766 to 1121 BC. That's a long time ago. And in the subsequent Zhou, Z-H-O-U dynasty, 1046 to 256 BC, the Chinese astrological system of a cycle of 12 years was established. Now, the earliest written records of the zodiacs used specifically to reference a particular year comes from the Tang dynasty, 618 to 1367, from which point the custom became popularized and remained in use until the Western calendar was introduced. So this is all, that's just the dates that I was fascinated, like which part of history, even though it is not easy to actually pinpoint it directly, that's as far as we can get according to what's happening online. So let's have a little look at this great race then. So this is the race of all these animals across the river that you may or may not be aware of. You know, why is the Chinese zodiac got 12 animals? Fascinating. So this is apparently, so I've done some research and I've kind of cross-referenced and done hopefully a simple, straightforward version of it. I noticed a couple of anomalies that amused me, which I hope will also amuse you, namely about the cat, but we'll get onto that in a moment. So this great race. So when the Jade Emperor, the Emperor of Heaven and Earth, decided it was time his earthly subjects were given the means to measure the passing of the seasons, he turned to the animal kingdom for help. Now, each year in the calendar's 12-year cycle would be marked with an animal. Don't even start. And we know it's a 13-year cycle, really, but we'll stick with the 12-year, right? But there are, of course, far more than 12 animals, and each wanted a place in the zodiac. So the emperor decided he would hold a race to determine which of the animals he would include. And the animals, all anxious to have their names written among the stars, were tasked with swimming over a river with a particularly swift current. And the first 12 to make it across would win a spot. So for some, the task was easy, and the others needed a little help from their friends. And so the rat. Now the rat's at the top of the pile. And how on earth did the rat swim across first? He didn't. He was an inept swimmer, and so he enlisted the help of a good-natured ox, asking if he could ride on its back so they could cross the finish line together. The ox heartily agreed. So bonhomie in that ox. And the plan was set. And some stories say that the rat was offering his song to the ox as they went across, but just thought I'd add that in, being a bit of a sound aficionado myself. So though the ox is slow on the land, he was a strong swimmer and made up good time in the water, soon pulling ahead of the others. And the rat was overjoyed that the plan was working and had its sights set on glory, but it waited until the optimal time to leap from the ox's head, I suppose, onto the shore and scurried across the finish line to claim first place in the zodiac, with the ox lumbering on behind to take the second. Probably didn't mind too much, just pleased to be out of the water. Anyway, in their wake came the tiger. Oh, that's the tiger. He's got stripes on his tail. Yeah, okay, good. The tiger, he was tired from fighting the strong current, and he was relieved to take the third place. Now the rabbit came bounding along next. In fourth place, and though it didn't escape unscathed, it's said to have been hopping from stone to stone in the river, and a misstep plunged it into the river, but luckily it was able to climb onto a floating log, and a gust of wind, remember this, the gust of wind propelled the vessel to the riverbank. Where did that gust of wind come from? I will tell you, because next came the dragon, soaring effortlessly through the clouds to land at the Jade Emperor's feet. The emperor, confused by the dragon's failure to win, because it did have the advantage of flight after all, asked the dragon to explain what had happened. Well, the dragon was charitably delayed by his efforts to extinguish a fire in the farmer's field. Extinguish a fire, dragon? Okay. And he also blew a helpful wind to help the troubled rabbit propel itself across the river to the shore. So, touched by this tale, the emperor inducted the dragon as the fifth animal of the zodiac. And next up, we've got the horse. The horse came galloping out of the water, well on its way to claiming the next spot, only to be startled when the snake came slithering up. Okay, yeah, sorry, the snake's above that. I'm still learning here with you all. And the snake slithered up, and the horse reared up in shock as the snake calmly crossed the finish line to claim the sixth place and relegate the horse as seventh. Good, we're nearly there. A short while later, the sheep, monkey, and rooster walked ashore. The three had worked together to cross the river in a raft, and although they arrived together, the monkey and the rooster felt the sheep deserved the 8th place for being such a calming influence when they had panicked during the arduous journey. Oh, I didn't know that before now. I thought that was lovely that the sheep kept them all calm. How beautiful. So the sheep took the 8th place while the monkey and rooster took 9th and 10th. Now, not long afterwards, the dog came charging out of the water to 11th place. And as the best swimmer of the whole group, the others thought the dog was going to be the sure winner. But it was having far too much fun mucking about in the water to worry about the race. So the 11 winners waited eagerly to see who would earn the final spot. And their answer came in the form of a loud grunt. The pig, left hungry by the treacherous crossing, had stopped on the riverbank to search for food. With its belly full, it had taken a quick nap, only to wake in fright, worried that there'd be no spots left to claim. So that's the last one, the pig at the bottom there. But there's always been a debate about the absence of a cat in the zodiac. And stories have attempted to explain this, telling tales of how the rat deceived the cat or even pushed him off the ox's back. However, scholars generally agree that the historical reason is because the zodiacs were chosen before cats were introduced to China from India with the arrival of Buddhism around the 3rd century BC. So that's the overview of the story of the Chinese lunar zodiac animals. Fascinating, eh? So now we move on to the fact that we are in a metal ox year. So this is from Ken Cohen, qigonghealing.com. He's Qigong Grandmaster, and he's just sent out an email which had this information on. So 2021 is a metal ox year. However, each animal also relates to an element, and the ox, unsurprisingly, is related to the earth. So this is a metal earth year. The first element, metal, is called the heavenly stem and represents spirituality. The second element, earth, is called the earthly branch and symbolizes the physical world, especially the environment and the economy. So the elements may be either in harmony or conflict according to how they're relating for the year. And so this year, thank goodness, the elements are in harmony. Because metal is mined from the earth is considered the mother of metal. Thus, in this year of the ox, the earthly branch, the earth element, is the source of the heavenly stem, metal. And this indicates a harmony of yin and yang, better environmental policies, economy more consistent with spirituality, and in general, opportunities for positive change. May it be so.
Oh.
This is a good year to get things done, to leave the ruts, the stagnation and chaos of 2020. The ox is strong, hardworking, persevering and honest. And because the ox is associated with agriculture, this is a year to plant new seeds of health and growth for ourselves and our communities. So the metal ox being the condensing yin energy and gold being of the utmost value, the gold standard. I know Nicola's going to talk to us about this shortly, but just to complete here with the statement that yours truly is a metal ox. I got a big birthday this year. So thank you so much for listening, watching my little episode on our OneQi. If you want to see more about OneQi, it's oneqi.org. Welcome to register on there and come and join us. Hey, good news indeed. We've got somebody's watching. I think that might be Claire watching actually. Good news, she's saying. I think it is portentous. So let's go back to the gallery and have some feedback from my colleagues at OneQi here. What do you make of any of that?
Oh, this is really interesting. I used to live in Japan, so I've got the Japanese take on the Chinese New Year and everything. So they just went for January the 1st. They don't do the Chinese New Year, except as a bit of fun. So Metal Ox started for me on January the 1st. And as you were saying, it's a beautiful year, and it's so. Last year was a metal rat.
That's right.
So
So
there was all the ideas of the preciousness, but rat is really sneaky. So the people who made money last year were the sneaks, and the people who bet. This year, the people who will make money are the people who work hard.
Yes.
So the idea of the metal ox is what we put in is what we get back.
Right.
So if you want to be more healthy, the thing to do in a metal ox here is Qigong. Come and look at us on the OneQi site. If you want to be more rich, then work hard.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to be more educated, study. That's the meaning of it.
It's where your focus is, isn't it? To mine the gold within,
Yeah.
you know. And so sometimes we can overwork, we can work too much. Whereas if we can be steady with what we're actually attending to, it may not even feel like work. It will just be your life's path that you're focusing on and acknowledging and committing to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, really useful. And the other thing I really wanted to mention is that this time of year is very potent. We've just gone through in the Celtic what's called Imbolc. It's quite an unusual word for some people. It's Candlemas in the Christian tradition. It's Groundhog Day in America. It's St. Bridget's Day in Ireland, or the Goddess Bridie's Day. And it's the time that the new shoots appear. So New Year is here with us. And even though it's freezing today here in Bristol, my snowdrops are out. The energy of the earth is calming up. And that's really what the new year is about, the new shoots of the new energy. So the other thing I was going to say about is metal. You mentioned it already, Clara. But metal doesn't mean like ironwork or bits and pieces made of metal. It's precious metal. It's always written like kin in Japanese, which means gold. It's the preciousness of that energy. So lovely new energy. And in terms of Chinese medicine, it's the breath. It's the one thing we can't live without. You know, you can't live for more than a couple of minutes without your metal energy. It's the most precious thing we have, breath. And it's that simple that we can take a deep breath. We can put our mindset to education, health, wealth, whatever it is we want. And the ox will give us the power to follow that path. So happy Chinese New Year. Happy New Year of the metal ox to everyone watching and all of you.
Oh, thank you. That is beautiful to remember to bring in the breath and that exquisite quality that the breath gives us. You know, when we actually inhale, to let ourselves acknowledge the smooth quality of the breath and that elixir quality. You know, we're so used to breathing all the time, we don't notice what a bounty it is to breathe this in and to receive the breath. So thank you for that. Yeah. So we just got Debbie Cooper on the live saying, love the analogy that it's the gold within. It is. It's always all that we're doing here. It's all an inside job, isn't it? It's any changes we want to make externally, we have to go internally first. And yeah, we all have gold in us. So yeah, thank you for that focus there, Nicola. So anything that Tim and Alex want to reflect on that before we go into Alex's thing on?
I've got the gold and the red.
Yeah.
Got the gold and the red. In the Shaolin tradition, the gold and the red is important as well. Courage and wisdom, the twin pillars of Shaolin, and the red, the courage, the gold, the wisdom. And so it's embedded in the tradition of the Chinese as well. When we look at Qigong, the golden elixir, the way that qi flows through the body, the richness that brings us, the nourishment that brings us as well. So all of that's in there. So I'm a water rat. So I was first out the water, of course, being a water rat. And last year wasn't a great year for me. Often in the year that you're born, if it corresponds with the year that you come in, sometimes that's a struggling year for the people in those years. It doesn't have to be. We create and make our own destiny. And of course, Qigong supports that as well. I'm going to come into a bit more about that in the story of the Nian and the guardian lions. But it's interesting as well, isn't it, how each of the animals has their own conditioning, they have their own characteristic, and they have their own idea of their placement in the world. And the emperor, the all-seeing emperor, was just interested to see how each of those would come in. And of course, the dragon, in the Chinese, the dragon's so important, but it depends on what dragon. But the heavenly dragon, Tianlong, the heavenly dragon, isn't a fire dragon. He's the heavenly dragon. And then you have the water dragon, the fire dragon, the earth dragon. But if Tianlong was coming from the heavens, he's the heavenly dragon. And of course, he's all wisdom. He doesn't care about winning first. He already knows his place in the world, and he's always there and relevant anyway. And so that's another, for me, another reason why Tianlong came in late. He didn't really come in late. He came in when it was ready.
Beautiful, thank you, Tim, and we will come and hear more about your story at the end. So shall we hand over to Alex now? I know he's got some wonder and some bounty to share with you. So
yeah, it's very interesting. I think that one of the things that might not be so well known, a lot of people are familiar with the animals, and the animals work very much on a symbolic level that speaks to the heart. But there's also a very intricate way of looking at cycles in nature, which are mapped with all of these cycles. And they're usually about bringing the number 6 or 12 together with number 5 or 10. That's how the Chinese lunar solar calendar works. It works by bringing together 10s and 12s together in a cycle which ends in 60. You have 6 of those broadly in a year. I won't go into a huge amount of depth there, but what I wanted to say is that you can think about the cycle of the years in a cycle of 62. So you've got 12, the 12, what we think of the 12 animals of the zodiac, but actually underlying that is the 12 earthly branches, and there are ways of that it's thought that farmers use to track cycles in nature effectively. And you have 60 of them because each of them has a phase or an element. So you have 12 with one phase element, and then you have the next 12 with another one, and then that makes 60. I'm not trying to explain all of the intricacies because I'm actually still a student myself, but what I'm going to show today is that you can look at these from a symbolic level, which is a very long tradition in the Chinese culture. Some say that the I Ching has a lot of that rich symbolism in it. It talks a lot about the imagery with animals and nature. And you can also look at them on the level of cycles in nature, which we can relate to in a much more everyday type level. And that's what we're going to look at today. So let me just bring up my PowerPoint here. I just share my screen here. Okay. And now I need to, there we go. So what I'd like to talk about today is something called the solar terms in Chinese medicine. Again, you can get it when you get into the Chinese calendar and the ways of tracking time, there's a lot. So we're going to keep it really simple. This calendar is the way the Chinese think about the solar periods in the year. What that means is it's divided into 24 sections. And you can see that at the 4 ends of it, the 4 main points, you've got the 2 equinoxes and the 2 solstices. And then in between, you've got a number of periods. It's divided up into 24 periods of roughly 15 days throughout the year. And as I say, it's centered around the solstice and the equinox. So what happens because the Chinese calendar is a lunar solar calendar, the lunar calendar, which is what governs what New Year's Day is, first day of the second moon of the year, I think, usually. That date is picked the closest possible to the start of spring in the solar calendar. And the start of spring in the solar calendar, Lichuan, started on the 3rd of February this year. If that hasn't confused you, then you're better mind than me. So let's go back to something simple. 24 periods of 15 days, and they can be thought of as mini seasons. They're named after the essence of the season, names like great cold, insect stir, frost descent, and white dew. They're very evocative, these names. But what's really crucial about it is they tell you about the energy dynamic in nature. And that energy dynamic is mirrored in the human body energy dynamic. And if we relate, this is all about Qigong today, so if we relate that back to Qigong, it tells us not only what might be happening on our bodies, what might we experience at this time of year within our bodies, but it also tells us what kinds of exercise or what qualities of exercise might be more appropriate at that time of year too. And the Qigong is a mind, body, energy exercise. So it's not just about the physical exercise, it's about the whole qualitative experience and practice of it. So we're going to just talk a little bit about what solar terms we're in right now and what's coming up. So talk about the one we're in right now and the one that's coming up. The one we're in right now is called Lichuan. It means beginning of spring, started on February 3rd. And then the next one coming up is Yushui, which is rainwater, very simply, February the 18th. So I have this very nice book which has pictures of what happens during these different solar terms. And to make it even more intricate, each solar term has 3 5-day periods in it, each called a Hou, H-O-U. And each of these 5-day periods also has a name. And so just to give you an idea of what is happening in each of these 5-day periods, it also tells you what's happening in nature very specifically and what's going to happen in our bodies. So the first Hou of Lichuan is easterly wind brings the thaw. And this is really an important idea because what's happening is that the frozen waters, particularly in the sources of streams and rivers, are beginning to thaw, and that water is beginning to flow. And in winter, when it gets cold, deep in our body, the flow of our fluids in our body becomes a little bit more slow, and it becomes a little bit more quiet. And as it thaws out, we actually start to get more circulation and warmth coming back into our bodies, and that's what's happening right now. Second Hou is dormant insects or hibernating creatures begin to stir. So there's something underneath the ground is starting to stir. Again, within our bodies, something, that yang energy is beginning to stir. And the third Hou, the fish ascend towards the ice. So the ice is starting to melt and the fish are starting to come up. So this idea of things thawing and then this movement, this yang energy starting to surface is what Lichuan is all about. But it's still certainly not a point where we have lots of warmth. As we can see right now, we've had this cold snap. And the cold snap is something that's clearly identified in Chinese thinking. The idea that you have this kind of struggling embryonic energy coming to the surface. So you have this desire, you go one warm day, you go out with a t-shirt and you go and you overstretch yourself, and suddenly there's a cold snap and all that cold comes back in, and the body has no defenses because you just opened all the way up again. So there's this idea of spring of just gradually building that energy, nurturing it and building it until you're able to actually fully express it in late spring and the summer. And then the second one, Yushui, just to give you a preview of what's coming up. You have the parade of fish, which is the fish have now ascended through the ice has melted. Geese fly north. There's a lot of symbolism of bird movement because migration patterns are due to warmth. The birds are following the warmth. So as it gets warmer, we're going to see the geese fly back to the north. And then plants sprout, germinate, and bud and come forth. So just give you a little bit more detail to finish on what we're talking about about what is the energy of this period overall. The idea at this point is we're trying to support this growth of and nurture this growth of yang and warmth within the body, and not expend it all at once just when we get a little bit. We want to be careful. We still want to be wrapped up. Even we want to have a defense against the wind, even on a warm day. So we might have a thin layer. And if we sweat, we want to be careful that we don't have too much contact with the wind. So that's where a lot of diseases can start. And one of the metaphors of this burgeoning yang growing energy, you can either think of a germinating seed. That's where we are right now in that phase. Think of all of the careful preparation you need to make and the careful nurture you have to help a seed germinate if you're a gardener. And but think of also that all of the power within that seed, it's all there, it's latent, but we need to make it just come out. And another example of that kind of energy is the energy of a baby or a young child. And that kind of energy, again, huge amounts of energy, but they burn out quickly, and they that energy needs channeling if it's going to actually be productive. It's quite chaotic. So that's where we are. So when it comes to Qigong, we'll come back to the discussion. Just to summarize, when it comes to Qigong, if you are a Qigong practitioner, it's at this time of year, you can do your practice in a very, very yang and external and a very, very hard sense, or you can do it in a more yin nurturing mode. And the yin nurturing mode is good at this phase to actually just collate that energy, but also just a little bit of yang, like the seed of yang within the yin in the Tai Chi symbol, to stimulate and get that movement going and mirror that in nature. So that's just a general tip for quality of practice in your Qigong. But I'm interested to hear what everyone else has to think about this and how you feel this kind of time of year in your bodies.
It's brilliant.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
I must say, I think I've got the leg warmers that your children had in your picture. I did my Qigong this morning outside, and it was definitely fish rising to the ice. Ice everywhere. 2 hats, 2 pairs of gloves, and I did very vigorous Qigong because I was outside. And I think, yeah, we automatically respond to the weather, and the weather is doing that, and the seasons are a pattern on top of that. So to remember that weather isn't the same as the season. So we've got cold snap right now. Yeah.
Very true. And I think you both mentioned this sort of what happens when we're suddenly having a cold day one day and a warm the next. And there are certain diseases that are associated with the springtime because of this sudden change in temperature and stuff, isn't there?
Yeah. Beware of the wind.
Yeah, Alex, that's so rich in information, what you put there. I imagine that you could do like a whole course around that, and the supportive Qigong around that as well. So it's so beautiful, actually, looking at those images, having that information. And what's always fascinated me with the Buddhist, Taoist, and the Chinese understanding philosophy is how much they were in touch and are in touch with nature, not as a separate thing to them, but as an integral part of the whole. And that we often in the West look at it as, oh, outside is like this, but inside I am like this. Yet there is an inseparable connection between what's happening inside with what's happening outside. And I train, one of my friends I train with in Germany, a grandmaster over there, he came over to the UK a couple of years ago to teach stuff. It was a cold winter day and we walked along the seafront. He had his hat on. And this guy's a world champion martial artist, a Taoist, Chinese medicine practitioner, acupuncturist, Qigong teacher as well. And he's wearing his hat, and the other student said, "Hey, why are you wearing the hat? I thought you did Qigong." And he's German. He said, "Yeah, but I'm not stupid." Why make your Qi work so hard for you? Wear a hat. So being in flow with nature.
Exactly.
Not being stupid.
Thank you so much, Tim. So we have we have Jeremy on the live stream. I wonder who that could be. Yes,
Hi, Jeremy.
Our dear friend Jeremy, and he's got a question for you, Alex. Do you feel that these seasons work for both west and east? I guess for north and south of the equator too, as China is only north of the equator. Does it translate into other seasonal spaces? Good question. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I would say for the most part, I would say yes. What you'll notice obviously is that, of course, you're always getting, you know, this is the overall sense of what's going on in the season, but like we get odd years. And so when you get into the really real specifics of it and different regions, if you look at China, for example, you've got desert, you've got forest, you've got ocean, you've got freezing cold temperatures, and you've got tropical temperatures all in one country. And some people say that that's one of the reasons why China was actually able to develop such a sophisticated medicine, is that it had all of that within one, you know, country. However, within China, there's going to be enormous variation within that, but they're still using the same framework, because when it comes down to it, actually what we're looking at the very essence is what Clara has in the background, is the Tai Chi symbol. And so this, and the Tai Chi symbol is fundamental, that the phases of the Tai Chi symbol are fundamental to every single process in the universe, every single process in nature. Human beings have developed and evolved with seasons. Our evolution has informed the genetics, encoded seasons into our DNA effectively, the day and night cycle. And so when you go really look deeper into what we're looking at, this 24 solar terms, that cycle, you're actually looking at the Tai Chi symbol, which is universal for everywhere. What I would say is, yeah, the other thing is that, of course, China would have China in mind when they were creating these, but because we're all Northern Hemisphere, we are more in common than, as he said, the Southern Hemisphere, where it's going to work. Now I'm going to reveal my ignorance.
Can I butt in?
Yes, please do.
So what people do in Australia or New Zealand, acupuncturists, Tai Chi people, us, is just flip it so that the summer solstice is obviously at the other end of the year, but otherwise it works right. The only thing we have to just be careful of is that accordion effect. So right in the north, the winter slightly gets bigger and the spring and autumn is slower. And then right near the equator, the summer gets bigger. So you have a bit of an accordion. So the actual numbers aren't always right, which is why they don't match the moons, which is why they did it like that. Yeah.
The Chinese are very good at adjustments.
Yes,
put it that way.
Brilliant.
And so they have a general kind of frameworks, and then they adjust for all the different factors we just talked about.
Yeah, and you just flip it when you're in the Southern Hemisphere.
And I think also you've mentioned the Tai Chi symbol, or the yin yang as we refer to it as wherever, when in doubt, just know that is there, balancing all the dances at every aspect of everywhere that you look, and it will support and nurture and remind us that the dance of the opposite actually creates the unity of one. So
and just in response to what Tim said about the master, I love that story, and I completely agree with it, that it doesn't matter how well developed you are, why not use yin and yang in every aspect of life? So if it's cold, you conserve the yang, and you can ride the wave, and you can have more later. It's I really love that story. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and it also reminds us that when things are apparently going really badly, we know that there will be a flip. It will turn, because it always does. The bigger the ebb, the bigger the flow. It will shift and turn, because that is the nature. That's the innate nature going on behind the scenes. So it always has to get that bad before it can be good again. But does that mean that when you're having a brilliant time, that you're going to think, oh, it's going to be rubbish next week or something? I think
sadly.
It's all right. We've been let down for a year, Clara. It's got to come round.
It's got to come round. So
that's it. There's no good, there's no bad, there's only the flow of life, isn't there? Exactly. And so my Chinese teacher, so he could say this because he was Chinese, he would say, breathe in about 10 times, a Chinese 10, which could be 7, it could be 14. So in the Chinese, they always has room for adjustment, never fix, in the same way as the Taoists would just wander the lands and just check in with what felt right, never fix, what flowed with our needs right now. So I think that's what's so beautiful about the symbolism and also the information of what you shared, Alex. It gives so much room. It's not a fixed thing. It is so much flow within that as well for the aliveness of that.
Brilliant, brilliant. Shall we hand over to you then, Tim, to tell us some amazing stories? So.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like we could take up the whole day just chatting amongst each other, couldn't we, sharing all these beautiful richness that we've got from what came out of China, mainly what came out of China, fed in from India. The tradition that I'm deeply immersed in is the Shaolin tradition. And so Bodhidharma came from India to Shaolin to spread Zen, to spread the Buddhism there as well. And so a lot of what comes out is so embedded in different stories from around the world, but we look back at it in terms of Qigong Chinese because it's a very much framed work as coming in. But what I wanted to share today is another story. I love stories. I mean, we all love stories, don't we? This is what's been fed from, well, before we had computers, before we had Wikipedia, before we could look something up, our ancestors shared the stories. And one of these stories that came out of China was the story of Nian. And so a number of years ago, I wrote a book, The Guardian Lions, and I wanted to bring into the Guardian Lions the different mythological creatures from China, some of the stories, but then bring my own experiences into those stories. So Nian, the story of Nian in the Guardian Lions is my own story. But the Guardian Lions sit outside the Imperial Temple. If you look outside the Imperial Temple, those stone lions are the Guardian Lions. So for me, they were there to work to help protect the Emperor's work, which is already fed in from the heavenly work, heavenly Qi, earth Qi. The Nian, well, he was a very greedy, very angry, and very fierce creature. I'll just show you what Nian looks like. This is my version of Nian. Okay, so you see Nian here. This is Nian. Okay, he looks very, very, very fierce, and he is. But he comes out.
Share your screen, Tim. I can't see him yet.
Okay. Let me do a screen share. Thank you very much. So let's go on to Nian. There's Nian. You see Nian?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So Nian is a very. I'll leave it up here for the time being. He's a very fierce, very greedy, very angry creature that would ascend from the seas every Chinese New Year. So there he hid, and every Chinese New Year he'd come out, and he would just cause havoc. Yeah, all of his emotions, all of his conditioning, it was there in the open, and he would come out and he would eat everything. He would attack the villages. He would attack the people. He would just eat the children. He would eat the market stalls. He didn't care. Yeah, he was so driven by his emotions that for him, that was his identity. So the emperor, he had already promised to the heavens to protect the people. So he sent his guardian lions to meet Nian. And so the guardian lions came down to the village where Nian was, and Nian was just waiting there. He had already created so much havoc in the village, and everybody had left. And then seeing the guardian lions just infuriated him. He's like, oh, now I'm really mad. So he roared so loud, it literally blew the roofs off of all the houses around. And the guardian lions, they were well trained, Shaolin trained, of course. So they just stood there. Nothing, just calm, centered. Well, that really annoyed Nian. He got so angry that he spat fire out at the guardian lions. The guardian lions, swinging their hands around, threw the flames away. Just stood there like this. Well, Nian was just incensed with rage now. It was just boiling up inside him. And he charged at the guardian lions, and they just stepped out of the way. And he tripped over and he ate dirt. Well, now, I mean, literally fire was boiling inside of him. He jumped up and he swung around that spiky tail, and the guardian lions just jumped out of the way. One landed behind him, pinned back his ears. The other guardian lion stood in front of him. So why are you so angry with us? We know you're greedy. We know you're angry. We can see that. But can you not see what you've done? You have devastated the lands. You have eaten everything in sight. Now, no one has anything to eat, including you. Have you not heard of the land of plenty across the 3 seas? You'd never heard of it. Of course, he was so blinded by his own rage and greed, he couldn't see anything outside of it. They said, look, go now and the heavens will help you find your way. And at that, Nian knew he was beat. He was no challenge there at all. He was not even on the same level as the guardian lions. And he knew that, they knew that, and he started to back away and bow. And at that, all the villagers started to come out of their huts. And they were banging pots and pans, waving red ribbons around, throwing firecrackers. And Nian hated red, and he hated lots of noise. And so he literally scarpered out of the way, never to be seen again. Well, at least not in that village anyway. And so in honor of the guardian lions, every Chinese New Year then, the people would come out and they would be with the lion dance, they would wave the ribbons, they would throw the firecrackers, they would celebrate and be able to ward away the evil spirits, the demons, the things that troubled us, so that we could then have a clear platform and way to move into our next stage of being in the new year. Well, all of this obviously relates to Qigong. Everything does. We could always bring Qigong back into everything that we've done. But when we look at the story in terms of what does it share, well, Nian was so immersed in his conditioning that he thought his identity was his condition. He thought he was angry, fierce, and he just lived that out. And we all have conditioning, of course, as human beings, as we know from Buddha and Bodhidharma and others, that we are born into suffering. But the teachings show us that we can adapt to that and lead us to a sense of freedom, the doing nothing. And the conditioning that we have might be things that we don't like about ourselves, we don't like about other people, we don't like about the world. And in moments in time, sometimes for quite long periods, we can also be in that zone, almost coming from that place as if that is our identity. Is it almost as if that is us, our rage is us, our sadness is us, our grief is us. And so what can we do? What can we do to help with that? Well, the Shaolin, the guardian lions, use the courage and wisdom, the Shaolin twin pillars. They knew that flow and stillness were the key to dealing with these parts of conditioning. And of course, in Qigong, we use flow and stillness. These are the sort of the two essence of what we do, the yin and the yang, keeping that flow around, the stillness at the center as well. So we can look at in terms of our own automatic reactions, our own conditioning, and then importantly, what practices can we bring into that in order to help us with that as well. So as we come into the Chinese New Year, the year of the ox, and things start to spring into life, it is a new opportunity. And so the metal ox is one about strength and fairness and reliability and conscientiousness. How can we bring our awareness of what we are doing, the way that we are being, the way that we're acting, into a life of creating no harm? Yeah, how can we do that? Well, at this time of the year, traditionally, the Chinese would have already cleared and organized stuff, not on New Year's Day, on Chinese New Year's Day. You don't want to be sweeping away your good luck. Everything's already well placed and organized prior to the Chinese New Year's Day, so that we've got this place of stability, a strong foundation to come from. And of course, metal associated with the lungs, associated with sadness, but also courage. Qigong is one way of really opening up the lungs to bring the life energy into our body and support our own courage, because we all need more courage to deal with, especially a difficult 2020. So courage is one of the things that the Qigong brings into that. And the sadness and the grief that happens around all this, of course, negative emotions do affect our health. They create health issues. Things like increased stress levels, things like weakening the immune system, and things like weakening the lungs. And of course, Qigong improves the immune system. It decreases stress levels and it strengthens the lungs. So it's the antidote to all of these things that come in. The other thing that I always love about Qigong, and I know you guys do too, it's a self-help. It's a self-help exercise. We just do it and it helps ourselves by doing it. We don't have to seek anything from outside because everything we already need is already inside. Energy, mind, breath, the body. We've got it all there already. So when you practice the Qigong, it's a way of releasing stuff. So if there's people that are watching this and they're like, yeah, but I'm too old. I'm not fit enough. It's like rubbish, okay? Qigong is for anybody because we all have a mind, a body, a breath, and energy that we can use. And the other brilliant thing about Qigong is that anybody can get good at it straight away as soon as you know what the fundamentals of Qigong are. Yeah? You don't have to spend 10 years to get good at it. You can do one lesson with any one of us or the other teachers, and you already get a benefit from Qigong. Why? Because Qigong is made up of energy flow, life flow. Yeah? It helps on the physical, mental, and emotional levels to increase the health and vitality. And that's what we're all looking for in life. Is good health, good vitality means we can engage in everyday life. So what would the fundamentals look like to you? Well, Qigong is helping you relax physically, mentally, and emotionally. It releases that unnecessary tension in the body, and it stimulates the systems in the body naturally to promote good health. When your energy flows more smoothly, good health is naturally more there. Qigong helps energy flow more smoothly. Remember, there's energy flow, there's flow, and the other important thing was stillness. Stillness is hugely important in our Qigong practice, but it's hugely important in your everyday life as well, because it's the one thing that for some reason in the West, we seem to be really bothered about. And what I mean is that when people come to stillness, they get agitated, they get nervous, they get bored, their mind goes off somewhere else. I must be doing something. Okay, now you can blame it on the Puritans if you like, because being idle was a crime in the past, and we've been conditioned in the West in many ways to not be idle. But what we've learned from the East is that in stillness, the systems can reorganize. things can reorganize. So in Qigong, we learn how to enjoy that stillness, because none of us are Nian, okay? None of us are Nian. We all have conditioning, but we don't have to be consumed or overwhelmed by our conditioning. You can use Qigong as the way to release the things that get in the way of stillness and energy flow. And that is bringing to the end of my Nian story.
Superb, Tim.
I've got to give you a little round of applause.
Yeah, really brilliant. I love it. And there's one more thing that Qigong does. It does exactly what you said. Energy flow and stillness that helps us light our light, which ripples out to our nearest and dearest.
Yeah, absolutely. And because everything in the world, and the Chinese know this to be very true, and they experience it as this, and we experience this in Qigong as well, that there is no disconnection between anything. So when we ripple out, we're only ripple into ourselves. Because infinitely connected to all the myriad of things. And so 3 being the important thing in Chinese, 3, 6, 9, 12. And so from nothing comes 1, from 1 comes 3, from 3 comes the myriad of all things that we know. The Jing, the Qi, the Shen, the body, the mind, the energy. And this is what is so rich in our Qigong practice, which is sometimes absent in other practices. That when we bring this triple unity together, we have this tremendous feeling of belonging, yeah? So that we don't have to feel alone or separated. And this is one of the things that I found so heartwarming and beautiful with all the Qigong people and the practice of Qigong itself.
Yeah.
That is so true, and it's kind of what's brought us together. And Qigong has brought us together because there is only one Qi. You know, it unifies us all. It is the unifying force of the universe, of the existence that we have, and that was really at the core of our hub here. Is we're here to help promote Qigong in all these different varieties that we have, and I love how we're so enthralled by each other's take on Qigong, and we see the crossovers and the weaves, and then we see the unique things that we're bringing to it, and this is really joy to my heart. And I can see Nicola lighting up there, going, "Yay!" That this it is. I think it's really special what we have here. That what wants to happen, which started as a conversation, and it's now a really good unit that if you want to come and join and be part of, hop over to our OneQi.org website. Come over to, obviously you're on the YouTube channel now. We do have a Facebook group too, but would love to include you in some way, whether you're a student or whether you're a teacher. Come and have a chat with us. Come and see what's going on over here. We are an inclusive group. We're interested.
Inclusive and eclectic group.
Certainly eclectic. Yes.
Yeah, and we all just are passionate about the Qi, the one Qi that unites us all.
Exactly. It is like proper magic.
Mm.
And I think there's an energy here with all 4 of us. There's this sort of, it feels like joyous, but also very steady and connected. And we just are present in ourselves. So there's space for the heart to open, expand, and connect. You say ripple out. I love that radiance of one's frequency. And if you want to know how you can help the world at the moment,
do Qigong
yourself. Do your Qigong. Yeah. It's so true, though, isn't it?
It's so true.
So true. So.
And it's what the Dalai Lama said. He said, if you want to care for the world, if you want to care for someone else, first care for yourself.
And we miss this, like Tim was saying, that that stillness seems to be a real problem over here in the West. It's like, well, if you're being still, you're doing nothing. Have you any idea what levels and layers of isness goes on when you are still? You know, that, and there's that popular phrase, isn't there? Like, go with the flow, go with the flow. It's like, the stillness, you know, it's not just flow. If you're always going to be in the flow, where are you going to come into resource? Where are you going to feel that calm being of in the yin? So I thought it was great that you brought that up. Thank you. Thank you. Um, anything else to add?
Alex, do you have anything?
Yeah, I love the story. I one of the things when I first started to experience Chinese culture directly was I realized that they have a completely different relationship to noise than we do, and that there's a concept called "re" now, which means, it's very difficult to translate. Literally means something like hot bustle or something, but it's very positive. And there's this idea that if there's a lot of activity and light and noise, then the kind of yin evil spirits won't be around. And so that whole story is it's a very, very tiny solution to a problem, is to make a lot of noise. But I think that really, in this certain sense, one of the goals of us to be able to, is to unite. You're talking about the three treasures, and heaven, man, earth, and uniting that within us, is to actually be able to raise our vibration and create a lot of vibrance. And so I think the Chinese idea about noise, in a sense, is actually creating something that's very vibrant and alive. And when something's very vibrant and alive, it's unassailable. Things can't invade. And I think there's a real sense of that. That's one of the things I really got from that story.
Yeah, you probably remember a story from the sort of the Taoist stories of the person in the room being afraid of the snake entering, but when the mind and the heart was clear, no evil can enter. And very much so. The first time I ever heard the lion drums was in Malaysia. My teacher took me to his old school where he used to teach lion dance drumming, and the students came out, and we all sat in a very small room, probably about the width of this room here. And there was a lion drum in there, and the guy played the lion drum, and we all sat there, and literally the resonance of the lion drum went through us, and it passed through, and I can remember the feeling now as well. And the feeling came through, like a wave came towards me, and it passed through my heart. And as it passed through my heart and out my back, I went like this, and it cleared something. So when vibrations and waves and resonance go out, there is no doubt that changes within the tensegrity model of the universe. You know, it goes out. You wave to the heavens and the heavens wave back. It's like that. So there's a beauty in that.
Totally.
Mm.
Like, and sound healing, sound clearing, resonance. There's a resonance of truth with those sonic frequencies. Layers down, because the air is invisible, but it holds so much. The air holds the chi as well as the oxygen. It also has sorts of waves going through it that maybe aren't quite so good for us. So when we bring in the drums or the bowls or even your own voice, bring in sound, that can certainly augment and assist with us finding our truth and also radiating out into the world those frequencies of truth. We could go on here, Fraser. We've got a couple of comments. Jeremy wants to know, Tim, if you can pop over and read him a bedtime story.
Of course. Like Max Bygraves.
Yeah.
Bring your lion drums though, Tim.
I bring my lion drums for him as well. Absolutely.
There's also another lass, Claire, she's saying, well, it's something that we have talked about in the background, that when we are allowed to meet up again in the future, we would love to run a OneQi festival. So that is something that we would love to be able to do. Wouldn't it be just so rich? It would just be such fun as well. Goodness me. So yeah. So until the next time, thank you all for being here. It's such a lively discussion. Also bringing your wisdom through. Thanks for all the preparation that you did for this. I really appreciate it.
Wow, amazing PowerPoints. Thank you, guys.
No, I'm doing out PowerPoint. No.
Yeah.
Well, I must admit, after Alex the other day presented the preliminaries, I was like, there's some excellence in that Alex raised the vibration. So thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
And you've inspired me now. This is what this is about. We inspire each other.
We do indeed.
And I just want to just add the blessing of the metal ox. May the preciousness of metal and the hard work of the ox go hand in hand for all of you, whoever you are, wherever you are. Yay.
As this year rolls on, to keep coming back to that relationship between the metal and the earth that was mentioned at the beginning, this right relationship there. So we are in a good year for building on in this new realm, you know, this new age of Aquarius. It doesn't have to be done the old way. We're bringing in the new. And so what we can envisage and vision in, what we really want, like almost like miracles, that we're in that miraculous zone right now. What is it we really want to happen? And let's get rid of all the old stuff. It's not working. And come into the trusting the earth, trusting all the elements, and trusting your
And those green shoots that Alex had in his PowerPoint, they're definitely green shoots of all sorts of really positive things coming.
There are. It's amazing. Humans are very ingenious and adaptable and flexible. So what is this? We can turn this into an opportunity. I think a lot of us are. Well, we're having to, and then support one another. That the people that are really struggling. You know, we are in community here. We're here to support one another as well as to mine our own gold and bring through our gift. So we are looking to do a talk like this once a month here on OneQi YouTube channel. So as I said before, if you want to find out more, get on our mailing list, go over to oneqi.org, that's oneqi.org. You'll also see more videos on this YouTube channel of each teacher that's part of OneQi has answered 5 questions, and you'll be able to see them here on this channel if you haven't already, because we feel that that gives you a real window into the uniqueness, but also the common denominators within our Qigong practice. So we're very excited about our OneQi group. So thank you so much for watching, for listening, and we'll see you in about a month's time. So until then, yeah, happy Chinese New Year. Gung Hei, Fat Choi to you all. May the abundance be you and you radiate it out into the world. See you soon. Bye for now.